Hey, what is going on, guys? Today, we're going to be going over some things that you can do to help you warm up for your online matches before you play. I'm going to go over some of the things that I do in my warm-up routine that might help you, and we're going to go over a simple 9-shot training pack that I built to help you warm up and overall up your level of training. Speaking of upping your training, I want to quickly talk about how you can use this video sponsor to level up your skills in Rocket League. This is Thrustmaster's newest controller, the eSwap S. And as many of you know, but even more of you probably don't know, I've been using Thrustmaster's eSwap controllers since way before we ever partnered with them. So when I tell you this is the best controller I've ever used, you can trust that I'm not just saying that. If you've ever switched from a regular keyboard to a mechanical keyboard, you know how much better the mechanical keyboard feels to use. The eSwap S is like switching to a mechanical controller. The buttons have a mechanical click feeling when you press them, and the joysticks are incredibly precise. After 3 years of grinding with an eSwap controller of my own, I can confidently say it's helped me the entire time with being more efficient in my improvement. Make sure to click the link in the description to find out more. So let's talk about the first thing that I do when I open up the game. If I'm going to be warming up on Rocket League for the first time, then the first thing that I'm going to do is jump into free play. I'm going to pop up whatever my favorite map is at the moment. I'm going to hop into free play and I'm going to start ball chasing. What I mean by this is I'm going to start full speed hitting the ball as hard as I can, trying to get really hard hits, going for really early reads on the bounces that I'm getting, and I'm going to try and recover quickly so that I can get back to the ball over and over and over as fast as possible doing this. Now what this is going to do is it's going to warm up pretty much everything about my connection to my car with my hands. I'm going to be warming up my ability to read the ball on the bounces. I'm going to be warming up my ability to recover quickly. I'm going to warm up my ability to get hard hits, and I'm going to warm up my ability to control my car at really high speeds. Now this drill is really useful for any rank. You can do this no matter what rank you are, whether you're on console or PC. You can run this drill as much as you want, and pros actually still run this drill. It's something that you'll never stop doing once you start doing it. Now, once I feel warmed up with this and I'm feeling a little bit more connected to my car, the next thing I'm going to do is actually something that unfortunately you can only do on PC. I'm going to open up Bacchus mod and I'm going to slow my free play session down into slow motion. I'm going to drop the slider down to around 50%, and it doesn't have to be exact, just somewhere around that 50% mark, and I'm going to play the same drill but in slow motion. Now when I'm running this drill in slow motion in game, I try to move my hands and fingers in slow motion and think in slow motion as well, so that I can actively represent the movements that I would be making if the game were full speed. Now what this does is this gives me more time to think in between every input. So I'm able to think about what inputs I'm making, and I'm directly tying them to what my car does. And this just allows me to really get connected to my car with especially those small movements on my joystick. In slow motion is where I really recognize that I'm making a lot of small movements on my joystick. And those small movements are what's really important to getting warmed up, because when you come into the game and you're not warmed up, those small movements tend to get away from you. You make a lot of big movements. So in slow motion, I'm going to pretend that I'm actually moving in slow motion, and I'm going to have more time to think about what I want to do, more time to recognize what my mistakes are, and more time to really get a feel for those smaller motions that I'm making on my joystick, those smaller inputs that really get me connected to the exact movements of my car. Now, once I feel like I'm really warmed up in that slow motion, I'm going to switch back to the regular speed and get accustomed to ball chasing again at regular speed. But we're just going to skip past that for the sake of time saving in this video, and we're going to jump into now what I do next after I get really comfortable with my car after that little slow motion free play session. What I'll usually do next is I jump into a training pack that I think I need to get warmed up on, like if I feel like my shots aren't that great, or my dribbles aren't that great, or maybe my power shots or my catches, whatever it is, I'll usually hop into a training pack that specifically has those things set up. But I built this training pack that is a general warm-up for you guys that we're going to go ahead and jump right into, and I'll give you guys the code in the description or at the end of the video so you guys can run this training pack for yourself. We call it mechanical warm-up. So it's a 9-shot training pack that we're just going to hop into, and the objective of this training pack is to keep things as simple as possible. We want to be really efficient with how we're going to be executing these shots. So I only want to do the movements that I know that I need to make, and nothing more, nothing less. I don't need to overcomplicate it. I'm going to try and simplify these shots as much as possible. So this first shot, what I'd like you guys to practice with this is to dribble the ball without using boost and gas together. We're going to separate them. So dribble it using only boost, and dribble it only using gas, and get accustomed to how these inputs affect the ball when it's on top of your car. So we're gonna go ahead and catch the ball, and we're gonna dribble it with no boost and only gas here, and get really solid straight lines in our dribbles so that we get control of this ball on our car without it bouncing too much. We're gonna do the same thing now with only boost. And again, I wanna keep this ball from bouncing as much as possible. I wanna keep it nice and steady on my car. I'm also keeping really straight lines, so you can see that we're keeping the ball under our control the entire time. Now, I'm gonna add some turns to this and make it a little bit harder for myself. As I get more and more warmed up, I'm gonna take it out to the side and do no boost so that I have a turn. I'm gonna do the same thing with boost. Get used to controlling this ball in different directions with boost and gas independently, and really get warmed up with feeling how these accelerations affect the ball. Now for the second shot, we're gonna do a bounce dribble. This is gonna be to practice keeping this ball close to you on a bounce dribble, but getting it upfield as if it were a quick breakaway. You need to be able to control the ball in a bounce, and we wanna do it in a way that's keeping it close to us, but is still quick enough up the field that we can have an opportunity to score on net if there are defenders chasing us. So the trick to a bounce dribble is just timing your touch to be right after the bounce, and you can do this by kind of driving away from the ball as you bounce it up and coming back to it as it starts to come down. You kind of create your own bounce off of the ball, going back into it so that you time your touch right when the ball is coming down. You also want to try and make sure that you're not accelerating through that touch on the bounce. You want to let off your gas and boost right as you're about to make the touch so that that ball stays close to you. Again, we want to try and keep this as simple as possible, so I want to do very minimal movements, and this is also a shot that we can mirror. You mirror it by pressing down on the D-pad. Shot number 3 is set up to practice the timing of shooting a flick. So if you get too close to the net and you're trying to flick, sometimes you'll flick the ball over the net and you'll end up landing in your opponent's net, and it's just a bad recovery. The ball's bouncing to your side. Not a good deal. So here we want to practice timing when we're going to go for that flick to make sure that it stays on target but still has some good power to it. Shot number 4 is just set up to practice a quick drift turn and then quickly getting into line with the ball. So what I want to try and accomplish here is making one drift turn and letting go of my joystick to be lined up with the ball as accurately as possible. This is to practice getting lined up on your first attempt, making a turn and coming out of that turn, going the right direction so you don't have to make a ton of corrections in your turn, out of your turn, whatever it is. We want to make sure that we can make our turn on our first try. So we're going to try practicing this by focusing on getting one solid turn and letting go of our joystick when we're ready to go straight at the ball. The closer you get in line with the ball, the more accurate you're being, and that's just what we're looking for. You can also mirror this shot so that you can practice both turning to the right and left. You press down on the D-pad and it's going to go ahead and mirror the shot for us. Shot number 5 is so that we can practice the fast aerials that we're going to be doing in game. So with this shot, all we're really practicing is getting our lineup on the first try and getting to the ball as quickly as possible. If we don't get there in time, the ball will disappear and it's as if somebody took the ball away from us. I'm going to try and getting accurate with that first jump, that first movement, so that all we have to do is boost straight at the ball and then we have options on a straight line. Once you get comfortable with hitting those fast aerials, then you can start pushing yourself to accomplish something with the ball afterwards, but again, just focusing on keeping it nice and simple and efficient. Now, shot number 6 is going to be combining the last 2 shots that we did. We're combining our fast drift turn and we're combining the fast aerial into one motion so that we can practice getting a quick turn into a fast aerial with our first try so that we don't have to make corrections, or when we do make corrections, they're very small corrections. This is going to put us on a fast line and it's just going to allow the fundamentals of what we're doing to be solid. So practice driving over the boost first and then doing a quick drift turn and getting up for the fast aerial, and try to do it to where once you jumped, you don't have to do anything else except for hold boost and you'll still get to the ball. Now, this doesn't mean that you'll be perfect at it every time. You're probably going to have to make some small adjustments after you jump, but the goal here is to try and get as much of a straight line to the ball as possible so that when we do make adjustments, those adjustments are very small and we don't end up overcorrecting. This is another shot that you can mirror by pressing down, and it will go ahead and switch the sides of the field for you, and you can practice this on both sides. Again, driving over the boost, drifting into a turn, into a fast aerial, getting up for that ball, and eventually doing this consistent enough to where we can start putting it on target. Shot number 7 is a setup for an air dribble off the wall. Now, what we're going to be looking to accomplish with this one is getting this air dribble set up without using any air roll, and then really only trying to use air roll once we've gotten control of the ball. But ideally, you want to try and warm yourself up without air roll so that you get a feeling for the car's movement in every single axis that you can move. So we're gonna go for an air dribble and we're gonna try not to air roll as much as possible so we can get control of our car from any angle. Now what that should help you accomplish is just being very efficient in your movement. Again, we're trying not to move as much as possible. We only wanna do the things that we have to do. So if we push ourselves to do minimal movement, we can slowly add pieces to it. We start as efficient as possible, and we add small things to it to try and make it more and more efficient. This is also another shot that we want to mirror by pressing down so that we can practice on both sides of the field on both walls. And again, we're just looking to try and be as efficient and minimal with our movement as possible. Shot number 8 is set up to practice shooting accuracy. So with this shot, what we're focusing on is getting some solid power and accuracy behind our shot off of a bounce. We're really just looking for placement more than anything else here. So what I want you to do with this drill is to practice saying out loud where you want to place the ball. Because for me, I found that if I don't say it out loud, I oftentimes don't hold myself accountable when it comes to executing what I thought. So sometimes I'll think, I'm gonna place this top left, and it ends up going kind of middle left, bottom left, and I tell myself in my head, that's okay. When I'm in a game and I have to put it top left, I know that I can do it under pressure. I don't need to be able to do it here. That's actually counterproductive. You wanna be able to do things on command, because when you're in a game and you have a scenario, you wanna have options in that scenario. You don't wanna feel forced to only do the one thing that it feels like you have to do. Sometimes there are other plays available, and you wanna be able to have options in those scenarios. Shot number 9 is gonna be practicing reading double taps off the backboard and placing them down into net. So what we're gonna do here is we're gonna use this bouncing ball and we're gonna try and bang it to the backboard and get a solid read on a double tap. We're gonna do this with as minimal movement as possible, again, so that we don't have to make tons of corrections. We're just trying to get in tune with our car's movement and get the fundamentals down so that we're warmed up and ready to do the more advanced things. And there you have it. That to me is a pretty solid warm-up. Being able to run some free play for a little bit, do some slow motion, get accustomed to how my car is moving, and then hopping into some training packs to accomplish some specific goals with really efficient movement, trying to keep my movement as simple as possible, is a really solid warm-up in my opinion. I'm gonna go ahead and put the training code on the screen now so that you guys can have access to this training pack and you can run it yourself. Make sure to leave a comment down below what you think of this training pack, or if you want more videos like this with more custom training packs in them. Go ahead and drop a like on the video if you enjoyed it. Subscribe to the channel if you want to see more videos like this. But most importantly, thanks for watching.